that 1 in 5 women experience sexual violence in Nigeria, and we know how a woman is almost responsible for quite a number of things in the family. Welcome to Parenting Conversations with Dami Faj, and today on Parenting Conversations we'll be talking about sexual and reproductive health, especially for adolescents and children. And with me, I have got Elizabeth Williams. Elizabeth Williams is the Executive Director of Sustainable Impact Development Initiative. I'll let her talk more about SID. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you, Dami.
Tell us more about SID.
Yes, so Sustainable Impact and Development Initiative, it's a youth-led non-profit organization that does work to advance sexual and reproductive health and rights of adolescents and young people in Nigeria. So we do this through community outreaches, we do this through capacity building trainings, and of course we also conduct sensation programs by social media to educate young people in their sexual and reproductive health.
All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth. So today I want to talk about some of the issues that you've experienced in your work with adolescents and young children. What are some of the challenges, especially SRHR challenges that you faced in Nigeria, so that we bring it home in your work? And let's talk about the challenges, then we'll talk about some of the solutions.
Yeah, so there's so many challenges. I'll start with the first one. Definitely, there's a high rise of unplanned pregnancy. Within the community, we see a lot of young girls who get pregnant and then have to drop out of school. There's also a rise in, of course, you mentioned, we have 1 in 5 women who have experienced some form of gender-based violence in Nigeria, and of course, that also includes child abuse. And we need to see quite a huge increase in that as well. Also sexually transmitted infections, including HIV and AIDS. That's also a major issue affecting adolescents and young people in Nigeria.
As you just talked about sexual abuse, it reminded me of a misconception that was going around, that is there still HIV in Nigeria? And what is your experience with this, working with adolescents? Because quite a number of people, some people believe that it's not something that we need to talk about anymore. It was back then in the day, but you are on the field, you face it every day, and this is parenting conversation. A lot of parents are listening in right now. Yes. So this is something that they need to know.
Yes, so it's extremely important that we begin to talk to adolescents and young people about their sexual and reproductive health. Puberty is a very challenging time for a lot of adolescents because they're going through a lot of pubertal changes. Their body is changing. They're beginning to have crushes. They are beginning to have burst of hormones, and they really don't know what to do with all of that. And that's why parents are so important, because we need to begin to give them, information that is accurate and age appropriate, with regards to what they are currently going through that particular time. One of the things that we always say is, for instance, adolescents who are about to start experiencing menstruation, they need to have information before menstruation even happens or comes. And young people, or particularly parents, have a huge role to play with regards to that. Of course, when it comes to things around sex, I know that in Nigeria, there's a lot of
something that we want to talk about.
Taboo around that topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. But when we go on the field and we engage a lot of adults and young people, the questions that we get, oh my God, it's an eye-opening experience for many of us.
Questions like?
Yeah, so questions like, oh, I have a boyfriend, he wants us to have sex, I don't want to have sex, what should I do? I love him and I want to show that I love him.
We're talking 12.
Yeah, so 12, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds.
Even abortion?
Yes, of course, when there's a lot of hush-hush around sex, and a lot of young people are pressured into having sex, or because they don't have the right information or skills, right? And that's to also say that we do a lot of give them a lot of value-based information. So things around self-esteem, goal setting, how they are able to be assertive, how to even negotiate and say, oh no, I don't want to have sex. That's a skill in itself. How do you say no to sex? How do you say no to somebody who is telling you, oh, I want to have sex with you, or you have to prove that you love me by having sex with me? How do you say no to that? So that's a skill that we actually have to build their capacity to be able to do. And so it's not just about talking to them about things around sexual and reproductive health, but building their capacity and building their skill set to be able to make certain decisions to say, you know what, I don't want to have sex now. If you say you want to abstain, or I want to abstain, I want to stay away from sex until when I'm ready, or until when I'm married, whatever the decision is. But yeah, we do have a lot of those questions. that come up a lot. And because a lot of young people, and to say this, according to the National Demographic Health Survey (NDHS) data in Nigeria, the age of sexual debut, which is the age at which young people start having sex in Nigeria, is 15. Wow. So from the age of 15, young people, adolescents, are already having sex.
Wow.
A lot
in normal circumstances. We're not talking about the odd stories.
Oh no, this is data. So I'm literally not making up the data. I'm not, making it up somewhere. Like this was data that was gotten during the last national census that was conducted. So whether we like it or not, whether I want to accept it or not, not all young people, but of course, a large percentage, young people are interested in it. They're talking about it. I mean, pornography is also a big issue. We see a lot. They ask questions like, is pornography okay? Is pornography good? Is it okay for me to watch porn? I want to stop watching it. How do I stop? All of these things are also different ways in which they're exposed, to sex at quite a very young age. And that's also a major issue. So we need to begin to have these conversations. We can't shy away from it anymore.
All right, and thank you so much, Elizabeth. If you've watched to this point, it means that you're getting value. I'd like to encourage you to subscribe and like this channel. This is Parental Conversations, and we're talking about sexual reproductive and sexual reproductive health. So I know that some parents are listening to us right now, and they're like, Elizabeth, I have an 8-year-old, because I want us to talk about some of the ways to approach some of these problems. I don't like to just talk about problems. It's like, what's something that I can take away and just act on almost immediately? And the person says, Elizabeth, my 8-year-old is asking me about sex. What do I do? Like, in my mind, my mind is going gaga. I don't even know what to say. And I want to act differently from the way I grew up. Do you understand? So what do you say to that kind of parent?
So the first thing is, please don't be judgmental. Don't start.
When you say judgmental, can you break it down some more?
So don't start to shout at the adolescent,
the 8-year-old
girl who is asking that question. Don't shout, don't scream, don't use derogatory words like you're stupid, like what is wrong with you, is that what you're going to school to learn,
why are you asking me that stupid question?
Yes, because one thing you need to understand is, for an 8-year-old to come confide in you and ask you that question, it means that there's a level of trust that the 8-year-old already has with you. A lot of 8-year-olds would not be able to summon that courage to ask you that question. So if your child or an 8-year-old comes to meet you and asks you that kind of question, please, it means that this particular 8-year-old, or if that person happens to be your child, actually trusts you enough to be able to ask you that question, which is a good one. It's a plus already. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you want to try to understand, where is that question coming from? There's always a tendency. Young people are very curious, and these are very, very curious. So probably she has had a conversation with her friends in school, or maybe she saw something around that line on social media, but there's a source for which that question is emanating from. So you probably want to try to figure out, or try to understand, okay, like this is the first time you're asking me this, like why the question, what exactly are you confused about that you want to get more information on? And they always tell you things like, actually I just heard it from somebody, or my friend mentioned it, or I saw it online somewhere, and I'm just curious, like I want to know what it's about. So once you're able to do that, the next thing you probably want to do is, of course, you have to provide a response to that question. Because don't provide a response to the question,
don't just run away.
That 8-year-old will go somewhere else
to get the
answer, and there is a 90% chance that the information that she would get would be wrong, or not be the correct information, or be misinformed, or even taken advantage of, just from asking that question. So you have to give a response to that question. So you could say things like, sex is the activity that happens which leads to pregnancy. That's how I was able to give birth to you. That's how I got pregnant and gave birth to you. So it's an activity that a man and woman do, and it leads to pregnancy, right? But then you don't just stop there. Yes, you've answered the question, but then you now need to go a step further to now say, this is something that is best. It happens, with a man and a woman who is married, like I'm married to to your father,
in a marriage
relationship, or in a setting, and when you're emotionally, physically, financially ready for that to happen.
I like that comment.
Yes, and yes, you have to let her know that, and of course, definitely say, oh, so what's important to you right now? Do you want to have a baby? And of course, she will tell you, no, I don't want to. And then like, okay, so if you don't want to, then you should not go near that.
All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Earlier you were talking about some of the challenges that you face in this line of work, especially working with adolescents. I've heard some experts say, and it reminds me of a particular episode that we had on self-esteem. I'll link it in this post. And the woman was talking about the importance of self-esteem, consent, education for children, and it just leads to why it's important for parents to get educated and informed about sexual and reproductive health. So go to immediately, what can parents do right away to learn more about sexual and reproductive health, to be age appropriate? I know I've packed a lot in that one question. To be age appropriate for their children, male or female, young, like pre-adolescents, adolescents,
teenagers,
young adults.
Yes,
that's a lot.
Extremely important. And from the moment a child can understand what you're saying, you need to educate them on consent. You need to educate them on or what it means for them to their private parts, and you need to call the private parts what they are, call the genitals what they are, right? Oh, as a girl, this is your vagina. As a boy, this is your penis. Make sure that nobody's allowed to touch these private parts. If anybody tries to or does anything, come and let me know. Come and tell me, because we're beginning to see children get abused, and a lot of them don't even know what's happening to them.
They don't know it's an abuse.
They don't know that it's an abuse, because most of the time we've seen that abuse really happens with people who are close to us, people who we are familiar with, trusted adults, so uncles, aunties. We see even parents that abuse their children, right? So it's really a huge cause for alarm, and that's why it's so important to provide that information at the early age, right? So that they know that, oh, these are my private parts. Nobody is allowed or expected to touch those parts or do anything with those parts. But let them know that these are their private parts. Call the names, what they have. Because a lot of the time when we say things like, oh, it's pee, it's flower, I mean, somebody comes there and touches the flower, the pee in quote, and the child does not see anything wrong, or does not even realize that the vagina is not a flower in quotes, and so they're not able to draw that distinction. So call it the appropriate names. Provide that information early on, and try to promote a culture where your children are comfortable to talk to you about anything. They go to school, they should be able to tell you, oh, there's this boy that I like. And when they tell you that, don't start looking at them.
How do you respond as a parent?
Judgmental eyes. And just try to build a conversation out of it. Oh, okay, really? Who's this boy? Why do you like this boy? Right? Try to understand what the relationship between them is, and from there you would know, okay, what level of information can I then provide. It could just be an harmless oh, I like him because he's very intelligent, he likes to read his book, and he's always coming first in class.
I'm sorry that it seems like I caught you, but now that you've talked about for pre-adolescent, now there's a parent that's listening to us, and the person says, I have an adolescent that has gone mute. Not like mute, but has decided not to tell me anything about what is going on with them. Like, probably we have a relationship, I don't know what's going on. How do I get that person to come out and speak up?
I mean, it could be difficult. Sometimes when they close up. But I think what you can also do is share your own stories, and your own experiences. They like things like that, because they're like, okay, if mommy can tell me this, Italy can tell me this, then okay, that means I will also be able to tell them this and they will not shout at me.
I like that you said, if mommy can tell me this, if daddy can tell me this. So you're saying that sexual education is not just for mommies alone, or from females alone. So daddies should take sexual education.
Yes, it's a responsibility of both parties to provide that level of information. And I feel like to a large extent, a lot of the time we do provide some information to the boys because we feel like, oh, boys are boys will be boys, and then for the girls we provide more of a very like protective kind of information, which is good. But then are we saying that the boys are more important than the girls, or the girls are more important than the boys? I mean, of course not. They are both important, and so the information you're providing should be balanced information, right, to both parties, to both the boy and the girl. Let's not abandon one for the other, because we're like, oh, girls get pregnant. Yes, girls get pregnant, but the boys are the ones who getting the girls.
Boys also get abused.
Pregnant boys also get abused as well. So yeah, I think it's important that we're providing that information. We do not prioritize one over the other. Both boys and girls deserve and they need to get that information. So yeah, providing that environment where you're open with your kids, it's most likely or very likely your kids will also be open with you.
I like that. Provide information that will let your child be comfortable enough to tell you what is going on behind the scenes. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And before we leave, is there anything you'd like to speak to parents, especially as an SRHR expert, that this is something that keeps occurring over and over again, and it's a change that a parent can take, either the father or the mother, and it will help us to see better results in the work that you do?
The first thing, listen to your children. Listen to them. Don't listen to them with the intention, most times
to just correct and beat them.
Correct and like as I'm dropping it in your head, you're already like, so you're already analyzing it and you're ready to give them back, like give it back to them, pass those, but sometimes it's a gift, it's a skill, it's an art, like just listen, like when they're pouring out their minds, talking about the things that they are dealing with or the things that they're going through, just listen. And listen to show care, listen to correct lovingly, not correct with anger, but listening to correct lovingly. So you correct them, but to correct them in such a way that they would not run away and not be able to come back to share with you again if there's a need for them to do that. Because we see that when we go for programs, young people tell us a lot of things, and in our heads we're like, and then they tell us, oh, please don't tell my mommy, don't tell my daddy, make sure you will not tell my mom or tell my dad. So we can see that there's that fear for them to confide in their parents because they feel like they'll get judged or they'll get spanked.
I think you mentioned that like sometimes when you go for programs, the anonymity, the fact that you are not related to them just makes them free enough.
It gives them that feeling of safety. Once we just tell them, don't need to put your name, just raise the question, oh Lord. We get lots of questions. Some of them are already having sex, but then they want to stop. Some are having sex, but they want to have safe sex. So they're like different. But there's some people watching us right now. They're saying, "Oh, maybe that's ones for your children that are in public school." Oh no, that's not. It's just children that are in public school. No, it's not just children in public school. Children anyway, public school, private school. Church mosque, everywhere. Yes, everywhere, because young people are young people, and there's so much information out there right now in circulation, so much information, on social media, on the internet, so much information. I mean, even if you're shielding them from accessing the information, but when you go to school with them, they have friends that have phones. If you have control over your own child's device, do you have control over your child's classmate's device or friend's device? There are cafes where they can probably go to before they even head home from school that you might not know about. So information is out there. They have friends that are talking to them, friends who are getting this information online and passing down the information to them when they go to school, when they go to church, when they go to mosque, when they go out. So the information is out there. There's a lot of information out there in circulation, and many of this information, they don't take their time to filter through what is correct, what is not correct, what is right, what is not right. We've seen girls who have had sex just because they were told that if you have sex, it would prevent them from having menstrual pain, or to stop their menstrual pain, which of course is not true. We've seen girls who have had sex because the guy tells them, oh, it will stop. The boys go through serious pain when they don't have sex. So the girl is like punishing them, denying them sex, and then because of that, oh, I love this guy so much, I don't want him to go through pain, so yes, let me have sex. Some people are with people like, oh, everybody in their clique, in the clique of friends have all had sex, but then they're the single only person who hasn't had sex. So there's that pressure just to fit in to that group. They go ahead to do that. So I think it's really important that we begin to educate our young ones. We begin to educate our children on things around their sexual reproductive health. It's extremely important.
All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth. That we asked that call on parenting conversations. We've learned, quite a lot. And something that Elizabeth has said that I'm going to take away is that you should be a safe space for your child.
Yes.
You should be a safe space for your child. Data and some studies have shown that even in Africa and Nigeria, that a lot of children are going to depression because of parental neglect and parental absenteeism. Do you understand? So we have work to do as parents to make ourselves available and be that safe space and listen, just like Elizabeth has said. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, once again. So if you listened to this point, this is still Parenting Conversations with Dami Faj. Please comment, subscribe, share this to every parent that you think or need to get this information. Until we see you again, thank you for joining and have a great day ahead of you.